Evening, everybody. Welcome back to another Gooner Gathering. I am your host, Lee, and hopefully in a short while, Sam Wilson will be joining us, and he'll be helping me talk through the England internationals that have just occurred for the qualifying for the European tournament, and we'll go through the Arsenal ladies' sides. There's a couple of fixtures that have gone through. There's Just get out of the chat, Sam, and would you get down here, mate? Yeah, there's been a couple of games. There's a Champions League game in Germany and against Bayern Munich, and we had the North London derby on Saturday. I just realised as I've put the live on, I can't put the chat up, so I'm gonna do this. Hopefully, you can all see me. Hopefully everyone's having a lovely week and a good start to their working week and everything. We've got on our way to Easter, and yeah, this will be a lot of fun. Just realised one of my banners aren't up. This is going well. Doesn't matter. I tell you what, we'll have a little bit more of a considered approach to. Let me just put the banner up. Is that there? Many thanks to Gunforce Edits. That's Martin for the banner above my head there. It looks very professional, unlike this broadcaster. I think what I want to do first is talk about the England lineup that started for the first game. So this is the one in Italy, as in Naples. A very, very tricky game to start with our qualifying. As I said when on my live before the game, that I had a few things to say about the starting lineup itself, but he started with Jordan Pickford in goal, which is probably not a really surprise, as much as we would have liked to see our own Ramsdale in goal. He often uses Pickford. He's been the established first choice for quite some time now. Kyle Walker playing at right back. Stones and Maguire were the centre backs. Shaw had a iffy night at left back. We'll come to him in a little while. Very much a lot of talk certainly in the press about Declan Rice, the West Ham captain, potentially joining Arsenal over the summer. Well, he was the defensive linchpin in the midfield. He was there joined by Phillips, who barely has played a minute for Manchester City, but he still gets in that starting 11. Jude Bellingham, is an exciting player. I love watching Jude Bellingham. You got to admire someone who's so young, who looks so composed, and has adapted to his game to that high international level. It's wonderful to see someone like that come through. Confuses me a little bit with a lot of the transfer talk with him, because I don't know why you want to sell a player like that when you're a big club. But be that as it may, front three I need to talked about. Grealish played on the left hand side on this one, and of course I'll put the young men here. There we go. This Saka and Kane. That was from the other from the weekend's game, but just sort of put the picture up. So yeah, that was our starting 11. I very much thought that so for the England against Italy game, I need to wind my head back and think. Yes, it was Declan Rice who got the opening goal on this one, wasn't it? And managed to get a rebound on a shot and managed to finish ever so composedly, especially for very much a guy that was labelled as a defensive midfield player who didn't score enough goals according to Graham Souness. But he had a wonderful finish to complete that move, and really I thought England very much in that first half looked very much in control, and then Harry Kane had the chance to redeem himself over the from the penalty spot from the tournament in the winter. Managed to put this penalty away very nicely indeed, and England looked comfortable, but Italy managed to get a goal back, and I can't really remember too much about that, to be honest. But England managed to hold on through a lot of Italian pressure, and yes, we managed to pull off a very impressive away win in the opening group game. Now I'm just going to see is there any sign of Mr. Sam Wilson in the back. No, there is not. Oh, there's my little warning on there. I didn't mean to put that up. Yeah, we'll mention Luke Shaw. He was given a very harsh couple of yellow cards, I felt, in a very, very short amount of time in the second half, which caused a lot of concern. One was for potentially wasting time on a throw on, which I thought was a bit harsh, but about 50 odd seconds later, he committed a really rash sort of challenge, and the referee having previously given the yellow card, really had no choice but to show him a second one, which meant that there were tactical changes that needed to be made. Kieran Trippier was brought on just to cover that fullback position, and Reece James actually came on, didn't he, for Saka, just to give that extra protection. But they managed to hold on. They managed to get the win in the end. And that was a great start. So following this game, of course, being that there was the suspension that Shaw had to serve, there were a couple of injuries that occurred. So, namely, Reece James was ruled out of the second game. On when was that? That was on Saturday, wasn't it? And the second game, there was another injury, was Phil Foden. Now, with Phil Foden, he apparently had, after training, felt a bit of an issue. He was in hospital having his appendix removed, apparently. So we clearly wish him well. Sounds like he might be a bit of a doubt for the next coming games. So it's City against Liverpool this weekend. So be interesting to see if he's going to be on the field or not. I doubt it, but we'll see how he goes. So in terms of the changes in the starting 11 for the second game against the Ukraine, there were three changes, and there was Ben Chilwell playing at left back instead of Shaw. Phillips was replaced in the starting 11 by Jordan Henderson, who was fully fit after a bit of a virus or something that sort of kept him out for the most part, or full training for the previous match. The other change, of course, was a first start for England for James Maddison. Very difficult for Maddison to make an impact in international level because of the strength of players on that side. We mentioned like Marcus Rashford, who has been in super form for Man United just of late, managed to keep on scoring regularly. Also, of course, Grealish, we mentioned. Phil Foden himself, who's very much been labelled the golden boy one of the golden boys of his generation. And James has really had to bide his time to get into this squad, but he certainly did not look out of place against the Ukraine. We'll say this as well. I thought the crowd were exceptional at Wembley for this international because of the ongoing situation in the Ukraine. I'm going to hold fire just for a second because in the waiting room, I see him. Hopefully, if I press this there, add him to the stream. Sam, are you there? Sam Wilson, are you there, sir?
I am. This is my second strike now. One more and I'm out.
We'll have words in the back, mate. We'll have words in the back. How you been, Sam? You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Recovered after somewhat recovered after what cars cost in MOT. So,
It's a sore subject with me, mate. Did yours pass though?
Yes, with a somewhat minor charge of Oh well, is what it is.
It is what it is, mate. At least you've still got a car on the road.
Yeah, that's true.
Unlike this young man, and you can donate to the Get Leah Car Fund by subscribing. So don't forget to do that. So, Mr. I join when I want. I've basically sort of covered the first game, like the England-Italy game. Let me just pick up your pen, which I have dropped. So that was subtle.
It's almost like you knew that I didn't watch it or the highlights. It's almost like you knew.
I don't know what you mean. I thought you were a professional broadcaster, just like me.
Sometimes.
Presumably, you would have seen the second game, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh well, there you go. That's helpful, isn't it? That's jolly good. So, okay, I can breathe a bit now and stop talking to myself. Because it's quite a lonely place, just talking to a camera when no one's there.
Isn't it? It's weird.
I did the 20-minute one on my own yesterday. It was great.
I notice now why when kind of anyone that does anything in this space doesn't watch themselves back, and I kind of notice now why, because you're not watching it for the enjoyment value, you're watching it to kind of
yourself.
Automatically you go to critique yourself rather than think of the good things, don't you? So
yeah, I mean that's the joy of being the MD, if you like, of this channel. That when I do, I have to go back on it so I can put shorts on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you must not forget to put shorts on a YouTube channel.
Yeah, this is going slightly off topic.
Yeah, but don't worry, no one's watching, Sam. It's fine.
upon a podcast I was listening to, they referenced to the apps on social media that we use and the span of the videos, and how we've given ourselves low grade of like kind of ADHD traits because of the amount of time that we consume sort of the things that we scroll mindlessly on our phone.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's over a certain period of time that we watch the most of, then regardless of if we're really interested, we won't watch it. And that kind of is a pattern that I think a lot of people are finding almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get on to subject, shall we? Because so I think I want to put the Italy game to bed, but what I want to talk about, perhaps we'll go through the three changes that England made in the starting 11. Say your thoughts on them. I've sort of pretty much given mine, but give you a chance to have your say. So I believe with Shaw being suspended, Chilwell came in at left back. Phillips, come on, let's be fair, he did well to last as long as he did in Italy. There was no chance he was going to play 2 games on the trot. because I don't think he's done that for about 3 years. But he played Jordan Henderson instead, and I was just saying before you made your dramatic entrance that how well James Maddison did in his role on the left-hand side. It was in place of Grealish.
Yeah. Well, enforced changes are enforced changes. If you've got to do it, you've got to do it how see fit. Yeah. But that's one thing that for a long time we've kind of been questioning him upon is the strength that we have in our squad, and are we using them enough and for the right purposes? So I guess, that question's been answered in one game. That doesn't go on to say that it will happen, because obviously it is only a qualifier. But yeah, that's only positive that he's starting to consider the other options now than just the standard 11 that he has. And so, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong in that. It's just that you have to be quite sensible in that, and you can't just change 11 each game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you say, it's only a qualifier. I think you have to get to the tournament first and foremost. And I will say, I think in both games, in particular in Italy, I thought England were very professional in the job that they did. And certainly for the game that we're talking about, the Ukraine game, which is a difficult game to go into anyway, because of course the political situation in Ukraine and everything. I will say that I thought the crowd were magnificent in their support for actually both sides, especially at the beginning with the national anthems being played and everything like that. It was quite nice to see, football uniting the two nations like it should do.
Yeah, I think that's, if you could have asked anybody, because there was quite a big turnout for the Ukraine fans, if you could have asked anyone that question, would you like to keep it out of this game of football? The resounding answer would be yes, I believe.
Of course.
So obviously you still did kind of get that media slant of things that they were going to put it on that still.
Yeah.
And I think, well, just keep it out. It's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And just kind of, because ultimately that's what happened, thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's how it should be. I think a lot of us will look to our hobby as a bit of an escape, as a little bit of certainly for this situation, 90 minutes to get away from whatever's going on in the world. And I thought, actually, as a spectacle itself, as a game itself, I thought the opening sort of 15, 20 minutes was actually quite competitive. I thought the Ukraine and Mudryk in particular, I thought started quite brightly, showed a lot with his pace, showed a bit of a threat going forward themselves, without really testing Jordan in goal, really.
They see, that's the they have, when you break down some of the players that they have some very talented players, but obviously we know ultimately, as we've seen from Arsenal this season, that a couple of talented players doesn't win your football matches. So they're not kind of a nation that's not got many options. They've got some really good options, which is why ultimately I think that he did still pick a very strong side to what he could have done, which I think has surprised a few, but I can see exactly why he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say the strength of the lineup. You see the main players, if you will, particularly these two. See that? I've got graphics behind the scenes and everything here, Sam.
Well, hey,
I learned one or two things from your watch along stream as you were going along.
Yeah.
Big up Niall Kane, by the way. Hello, Niall Kane, who's in the chat. Nice for you to join us. Thank you for being here. It's appreciated. Yeah, so he played these two, and very much the key to the game is how these two played together. Interesting, isn't it? The Arsenal and Tottenham connection here. But talk about the first goal briefly. Saka managed to receive the ball on the right-hand side, managed to beat a player, got the cross in. I want to say how well I thought Kane improvised on his finish, because he could have very easily slashed at it. It could have very easily gone anywhere, but he managed to control it quite nicely, as we expect from him.
Yeah. Just to skip a little bit, though, I don't know if you carried on watching after the game. And I just wanted to watch Saka's goal back. That was just... But the amount of time it actually took to see that goal before speaking about Kane, before Ballion came in and had an interview that lasted forever.
Right.
And I just sat there. Obviously, it sounds fairly biased as an Arsenal fan, but I just sat there and I thought, how long is it going to take for them to realise that if you take Saka off the pitch, they wouldn't have won that game? It would have been 0-0, potentially.
Do you know, I get your point. I think Saka's the creative spark, and it very much shown that in the Arsenal side as well. Is that one player who can do something a little bit special, who he unlocks the doors to get that all important breakthrough. And you know, when he scored the goal itself, it's that position that we've seen from him so often. It was very, very similar to the goal against Man United. And as soon as he received that ball on his left foot, when he received that pass from Henderson and he sort of controlled it, got it on left, you knew exactly where it was going to go before he even hit it. And you knew he'd get it on target as well.
Yeah, you even go back to like I remember it very well, the USA game where we were absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Regardless of, because I was sat with other people, and regardless of whether I'm an Arsenal fan or not, for that full 90 minutes, they said the only person that can have any sort of pride in that is Saka, because he just wanted to be there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he well-earned Man of the Match award as well. And he kind of pinch yourself as well. Didn't you think about, they always talk about Bellingham and he's 19 years old. You always forget how young Saka is as well. And if he's doing this at this sort of stage in his career, I wonder, the potential on him is huge. I don't know how much you will know but in your history about David Rocastle, but my goodness me, this young man reminds me so much of him, and the potential that he had, it was absolutely limitless. And yeah, it's not just the shirt numbers.
No, it's the same. It's the same kind of story though, as well, isn't it? It's the same kind of like growing up through Arsenal. Basically, it's the same kind of. You can draw lots of similarities to it.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And let's hope that maybe Saka can pick up some of the trophies, just like Rocky did as well. But we won't get carried away with ourselves just yet. Not yet. Not just yet. Maybe later.
9 games, and then I'll start to.
I find it quite interesting your cautious words the other day, actually. Well, one or two of us might sort of be starting to raise the expectations a little bit. I think it's actually good just to take it, just think about this for a second, just foot off the gas a little bit. Just think, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because even we'll go to Leeds for the weekend, and the Premier League in general. You could go against anybody, and strange things will happen. And
yeah, because I made a little bit of a point to someone else that everyone's now saying, oh well, Man City's got a nicer run of games. If
Right.
that filters from the fans to the players, they're going to then go, oh, well, actually, they'll be looking at it on the phone. They'll go, oh, actually, we have got an easy run of games. Then we know what that easy run of games does to you then.
Complacency can come in very easily, can't it? We've seen
Mhm.
it before. Seen it before in numerous times. And that's the joy for the Premier League, I think. You know, it's that you just all sorts of strange results can happen at this stage of the season, up and down the league. You know, you got your term like easier games, right? How often have you seen it when these teams that are down the bottom end of the table needing to pull away from that bottom three?
Mhm.
How many times have you seen them pull off shock results and manage to get the upset, and then all of a sudden, oh, they weren't supposed to win that. How have they done that? I remember Crystal Palace pulling off one against Liverpool not too long ago.
Yeah, and ultimately, you look at the table and you look at the position between the bottom 7 or 8, I think it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
5-ish points, there or thereabouts, between you going from safe to not safe.
Yeah.
So ultimately, to me, looking at it, they're the games that are going to be the tough ones because they're with 10 games left fighting for their lives to stay up.
Yeah.
The majority of places below us are still up for competition, but they're not. It doesn't come with the same consequences.
Yeah.
As going down does.
Absolutely. So we've spoken about Saka. He scored his goal. I would say the second half almost felt a bit like a non-event to me, because a little bit of the excited spark had sort of died down a little bit. I would say England were very professional. They defended properly, and they somewhat nullified any sort of threat Ukraine had going forward. Not really an awful lot to add, apart from Ivan Toney managed to get on the pitch for the last 10 minutes. But have you anything to add on this? Because I think in terms of England, that's
probably
where
not, because my Tony values may rattle some cages.
Oh, go for it. Go, because I had my opinion the other day.
I don't know. I don't think I actually saw your opinion, but I don't think I did. But yeah, I just don't think it brings off a message that you can do things and get away with it and not have any consequences because of that. And I think that's a thing we get awfully good at if you watch that all the time.
Yeah.
It's just the knock-on effect of, so for example, Jade didn't really know about the betting charges, and Tony came on and went, oh, that's not great. She said, oh, what do you mean? And I said, 256 charges have gone against him or something like that. I don't know the exact number. I'm not reading it day in, day out. But yeah. And then I went on to explain that so in some of the communities that I work in, even if you work in, so let's say for Lincoln, even if you work within that club just helping with one of the community projects, that's still your in your contract as well, that you can't bet.
Yeah.
Even though you haven't got direct, you can't physically yourself change that scoreline. You're still under that same rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just.
Hi, Soph. Welcome in. It's nice to have you here. Could you finish what you're going to say, mate?
Yeah, I think that's basically it. I think it's just basically that it shows the wider picture of things is not great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with your opinion. You know, I don't. I mean, he's done remarkably well to focus his playing time and keep on performing as well as he is for his club. I do wonder how his teammates do feel about the whole thing. But in terms of a natural ability and the way he scores goals, yeah, very much a finisher in the Ian Wright kind of bracket, because he puts goals away. But I don't know how you can plan to have him in an England side with charges that are just coming out of his ear rolls, with not knowing. I would imagine he's going to get quite a lengthy ban if he's proven guilty, boys and girls. That's the big thing there, isn't it? You know. Sorry, I'm going to have to mute myself because I need to clear my throat. But
but yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's because obviously I can't directly say what should and shouldn't happen.
You're entitled to a view. That's what this is all about.
And I also don't want to. And also, in that same breath, I don't want to come with the same thing that everyone's saying is, well, there could have been alternatives, because there is. But the fact is that he's been picked, so you look at why he's been picked and why that's not great, rather than different things. So, yeah,
like I said, in terms of actual goal scoring in the league, I think it's only second to Haaland in the goal scoring charts. So the lads clearly deserved the call up in terms of that. But then obviously the other side of it. I think we'll leave Tony there for a minute. Just big plug to Sophie who's watching us. Guna Gossip TV. She put out a video. I think it was yesterday. Make sure you watch it. She's doing some great stuff. So good on you, mate. And it's nice to have you in the chat. So let's take that away. Do you know where I think we should go? Because I think we should sort of cover areas that we haven't really spoken about. And actually, two things I want to talk about. First of all, I don't know if you can see properly with my gear I've got on here. I am sporting my wonderful Golazzo hoodie. I can probably give you a better picture from my little girl here. There she is. There's my Amy. We've got matching hoodies. There's the front view. There's the back with Bukayo Saka on the back. It's a beautiful bit of work. And so to give our friend a little bit of support, find her at goalazzo.com. I'll give her a bit of a plug because she's not very well. She's suffering with migraines. So wishing her well. And Posh Bertie as well has not been well. So sending best wishes to the pair of them. Get well soon, guys.
It's just the little touch as well underneath, with a little bit of personalization. It's nothing massive, but it just shows that like care has been taken when doing everything, basically.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic bit of work. It's a long time in the making as well. I think it's about 20 hours work or something, getting the graphic drawing in, and then the process going through, putting the files through a computer, getting that image scanned, and then put it onto t-shirts and onto hoodies. It's fantastic work. So I've given Fran a totally unexpected advert that I thought would be a nice little thing for me to do for her, as a little thank you for all her work that she's been doing and will continue to do on our channel. Right, I think what we'll do now, shall we talk about that lot across the road? And particularly,
who's that?
Yeah, the now former Tottenham manager, yeah, Conte, or is he Conte? Sorry, I saw something on the group chat earlier on today. I had to use it.
See, I don't agree. As much as I don't want to see them doing well, I love it when they don't do well. I don't actually think he did a great deal wrong, because he's only saying really what nobody else has got the bottle to say, but is ultimately quite true.
Yeah.
There's like I say always, there's ways to say things to make it sound nicer and more thoughtful. But that's in the moment of things, you don't think like that sometimes. I don't actually. I think it's wonderful that they've got rid of him, because I don't actually think there's anyone better at the moment that they can get in. So they're just kind of shooting themselves in the foot, if I'm honest.
I agree. And do you know what? I think you'll find a lot of the Tottenham fans are going to say exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and Antonio Conte said exactly the same thing. The level of how Tottenham have been has been, pretty much there. And I think the point he was trying to get across is they wants to raise the level, and I don't think he's been given that chance to do so. And I don't think they're given the backing quite enough. It's that ultimately down to the chairman, Daniel Levy, and all that. And I think with Conte, I think his patience absolutely snapped after last weekend's, not last weekend, the weekend before's games. He just thought, I've had enough of this. And and that was his raw passion. But because the guy's a born winner, that's my opinion. And it's not just his playing career. He's won things before up in Italy as well. So I don't know. For me, Tottenham burned themselves through 2 world-class managers now. I don't know how they expect to do any better. They're not going to with that hierarchy in play for me. But
I see. I think this is a problem when you start to listen to Talk Sport. You get like loads of differing views because literally anyone can ring and join. But that's ultimately, it's also quite good as well, because then you potentially listen to things that you may not have thought of.
Yeah, totally. That's what
I think people are quick to kind of. It's a bit like Arsenal, to be fair, and of the last previous kind of 10 years. They're quick to blame a certain person.
Yeah.
Which, yes, granted, sometimes it is. But then you look at it as a whole, and yeah, you get a better understanding when you just take time and care, I think, in looking at everything, because the way that it is, it's very performance based. So yes, they would say it was boring the way that they set up and played football. It probably is boring to watch. It's a lot of money to go and watch it. But then ultimately, if you win a football game and then you win a series of a lot of football games, you end up winning things, regardless of how you play football.
It's the George Graham mentality, wasn't it, back in the day, mate?
I was about to say that. But I was about to say that, but I was noticing that obviously we were talking about a different team. So I'm trying to be, when I come on to shows, I'm trying to be less Arsenal biased.
Exactly what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm playing that role quite nicely, I thought.
Yeah.
On.
But yeah, because that's what it is. And I don't know who started it. I'd love to go back and find out who started all this sacking the managers as soon as you lose 5 games or less. But it's just got out of hand now.
Massively so. I mean, I'll even open it up a little bit to Patrick Vieira and what happened to him against Crystal Palace. I have had my good friend from work say to me, I just don't understand. His name's Keith. He's the .com driver with me. Big up to Keith if you're watching. He was like, and he was saying he just doesn't understand why they would have taken a step backwards in terms of going for Roy. He likes Wilf and everything. He's very good. Did you not see it?
Be careful. Be careful. They will remove you from the space of this earth.
That's all right. I'm ready for it. You know where to find me at Goonally Meads.
But yeah, I can see. I'm playing devil's advocate like I did the other day. I can see why they've done it, but they've not looked at the bigger picture of can we get anyone better in that is going to better our chances of staying up. Yes, they've done it and thought, oh, well, we're not in complete panic, so let's change it now, just in case we're in complete panic.
Yeah.
But now, in the bigger terms of things, they've put themselves in complete panic almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having a fit replacement.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say about Roy, and I've got a lot of time for Roy to be in all honesty, but he's and I'm sure he'll have them maybe playing less exciting football, but what I can see him doing is getting them more compact and trying to get that defensive solidarity, or trying to attempt to do it. Difficult when you haven't got a transfer window to play with and you've got to work with the same group of players. But his style of coaching will trying to be in trying to get that, stop the goals from going in, very much entrusting Wilf Sahar and his guys to up that way to do their business. And I'm pretty sure that they're going to survive anyway. And I'm sure the Palace chairman has got something in mind for longer term as well. But be that as it may, that's what's going on over there. Do you know?
They watched the women's game and wished that the standard of football was like that, rather than the stuff they see week in, week out.
Nice segue, because you know exactly where I'm going now, don't you?
Yeah, that's what was my quick thinking.
Absolutely, because there, some people might be saying, "Oh, it's international break. What am I going to do? How am I going to get my Arsenal fix?" Well, you know how you get your Arsenal fix. Actually, you definitely should be watching the ladies' game as well, because there's some fantastic stuff being played over there. And it was at Leyton Orient's ground as well, wasn't it? We had a North London derby to enjoy. So I think this is where you'll come into your own, because I've not got anywhere near enough notes written down for this, but I did see the vast majority of this match. Would you like to talk us through the differences in this lineup compared to what played in Germany? Because we had obviously, because Matt was in Germany and he's seen the Champions League game, and I would suggest probably, although the league's somewhat getting tighter, with other results going the way they are, my kind of thinking is Jonas is looking at a bit of an experimental lineup here in the WSL at the moment, and trying to keep the strongest players in with with a chance of progressing. I believe it's is it Wednesday? I think
Wednesday night. Yeah.
There we go for the second leg, which again they're very much in still. It was only 1-0 at the end, and I thought they were rather unlucky in terms of the result on that game. But
yeah,
if I put this up for you, there you go.
Yeah, I guess
rolling straight from score centre. Thank you, Sky.
I guess the changes were to protect certain players, but ultimately they weren't at the sacrifice of the team being weak at all.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. It was just a few, again, minor sort of changes. And I think the changes that he did make worked really well. Because ultimately, when you're still in a tie like they are at 1-0, you want your best available 11.
Just forgive me just a second, mate. Something's breaking. News breaking.
Oh, is there? So yeah, and when you've got, I don't know, I can't remember the number of tickets. I think it was 16,000 at one stage. And you're 1-0 up with your home fans behind us. Again, when watching the game, you couldn't hear. I don't think I heard a single chant that of the home team, because I don't want to mention who that is, but I don't think you heard a single chant from them.
Yeah.
I don't take any notice in what they do normally, so I don't even know if I'm guessing that's their ground as women's football on a permanent, a bit like we are with Meadow Park. But yeah, I think the only bit of credit I will give them is the years before there was a seismic, and I mean seismic, gap between the ability of the teams. This year was the first time that for the majority of the first half, they were actually fairly very competitive, really.
Yeah.
That's normally from minute 1 to 90, it's almost complete dominance. Apart from that one game I think we watched on a stream that was in the cup.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
That was a 1-1. That was the only other time that I've seen, but normally the gap is massive, and that's not me just saying that as a
yeah.
So that's the first time, because they've bought certain players in certain areas, that's kind of given the knock-on effect, a bit like Zinchenko, a bit like Jesus, that sort of players of experience that kind of motivate the rest to be better. So I do think the scoreline was a little bit harsh, if I'm honest. Second half, maybe not, because it was like at one point, I think 16 shots to Tottenham's none. But that first half, if you just watched that first half and turned off at half time and then saw the 5-1, you would have said, oh, well, how's that happened? Have they just walked off the pitch and not come out for the second half? Because it was fairly competitive. And
the first half was definitely, yeah.
At certain times, we were fairly unlucky to not concede.
I get you. Do you want to sort of quickly, shall we round up the goals themselves?
Yeah, so the goals themselves, each was unbelievable in their own kind of way, really. Again, yes, Caitlin scored all those goals that gave her player of the match. But again, I kind of looked at it on somebody that a couple of videos ago that I set Palova, that I said I didn't really know much about. So I've taken an interest. I think she came on the second half at some stage. I don't know if it's at halftime or afterwards. I think it's probably afterwards at the final. And I just kind of, because nothing else much was going on, it gave me chance to kind of watch certain players.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why we scored 5 was probably because of her kind of creativity. Because I believe she hasn't started many. She's come on a lot of the games, but she hasn't started many. So I guess it was kind of a chance to stamp a claim on lineups going forward.
Yeah.
So that was my main 2 takeaways from the game.
I'll mention Stina Blackstenius's opening goal in 5 minutes, which sort of set the tone for us, and the way that she hit a shot rather early and managed to lob the Tottenham goalkeeper. Absolutely outstanding. If you've not seen the goals yet, absolutely watch them back. I think Stina's goal was absolutely the highlight. Kim Little's penalty was fantastic. Right, couldn't have hit it any further in the top corner if she tried. And Marnham as well, who's I think well into double figures in the season now, which is a best total by a long way, I think.
That's a little bit of a story in itself, almost, because you've got a period when she first joined that she was one of the brightest players in the whole of the squad for a long time, and then had a really long period where she didn't play at all.
Yeah.
And then due to a few injuries, I don't think if it wasn't for a few injuries, she would have actually got back in.
Yeah.
To then kind of be doing what she's doing now. So again, you kind of look at that story and say the easier thing to do there would have been to go to another club, because she was clearly too good to be sat on the bench, which is showing now.
A bit like Nikita Paris, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And look what she's doing up at United right now.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the fit didn't work at Arsenal, but she's doing well over there. So that's fair enough. Right, that's kind of covered that. What the news that had just broken in front of my eyes was in relation to something we have spoken about on the channel briefly, and it was regarding the Fulham versus Man United game, where obviously there was the 3 red cards in about 50 seconds, one of which, after the Willian handball was shown to Marco Silva. He's now been charged with bringing game into disrepute, I believe. I think that's the charge, with only seeing the sort of the top level line of the bar. So that was the news that had just broken there. So I don't have anything more to ask on that one, really. But maybe just to sort of conclude our stream for tonight, if you like, there probably is a few other international players that probably we need to give a bit of a shout out and to talk about a little bit. Probably one of the highlights would be Granit Xhaka and his goal for Switzerland.
Yeah, and also Smith Rowe's appearance in the 21s against France.
Got a goal as well, didn't he?
Yeah, because again, that's a game that's two of the best young sides in under 21s level football. Again, that's the bigger story of that is kind of proving. I don't think that's through any fault of his own, though, that he's out the team, because it's not for the fact that the ability is probably the same. It's just the fact that when the winning formula is there, you can't change the winning formula. So yeah, that it states a claim. Again, I don't actually think a number of like time been given for the ban.
For Silva.
So for Mitrovic.
I don't think that has happened yet in terms of a ban for Mitrovic.
Oh, so you didn't mean that one in the.
But what the charge in terms of the manager getting a bit of a.
Oh,
what I was referring to.
Did you get a chance to see the tackle that was made on Ødegaard?
Yes, I have. Hello, Finley Whitworth. It's nice to see you there. Would you like to talk about Ødegaard's tackle that he managed to survive?
Yeah. I don't know how many times I can have this conversation, really, and say that what's the difference between intent and not intent now? It kind of muddies itself every single game of football that I watch.
Yeah.
And I think everything's becoming that much of a kind of one view against the other that we're kind of losing fact of the actual rule.
Yeah.
Because if that's not a penalty, at the very, very least, then I kind of don't know what is.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you.
I would even almost go as far as saying it was intended. I don't want to come with this narrative that the Man City players are trying to take the Arsenal players out.
No,
but
of course.
I would go as far as saying if I was watching that as a neutral, I would say he's meant to do that as well.
I get you. I know what you're trying to say. I get you, mate. Well, certainly in terms of games tonight, which you might not know about, last time I checked, Thomas Partey had not been used in their international. So that will be really good news if he's still fit and well, coming in to the midfield for the Leeds game, which again is going to be a very competitive game.
I don't know how true it was, but I read somewhere that Arsenal sent out a representative with him,
right,
to monitor kind of the minutes that he was getting, knowing that he'd come back from an injury.
Right.
I don't know how true that is, because me or you could have made up that article and placed it somewhere online.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, mate, I've read a lot of stuff on that situation and evolving around that situation, but stuff that I don't want to get into on our YouTube situation. To be fair, I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of on the pitch, he's not been out as far as I know tonight. So that's promising for him. Is there anything else I need to cover? Do you know? Probably not, because I think we should probably wrap it up about now. What I do want to do later on in the week, and I don't know when we're going to do it because I don't know how fit and well everybody are going to be. But once all the international games are finished and everything like that, I will obviously, when we know a bit of team news and who's available and who's not, later in the week we'll definitely have a quick preview stream, and then we'll look at reviewing the Leeds game probably around this slot. I would imagine next week. I would imagine. Mm-hmm. So with all that being said and getting ready to wrap it all up, I'm going to turn that one off. I'll stick our social medias there. Sam, where can they find you on your socials, please, sir?
So Sam Wilson with the one in the space of the eye. I'd love the amount of spots that I've done on videos, whether that be like football in general or Arsenal. I'd love for there to be a counter on how many that I've actually gained from, because that's obviously a staple, isn't it? Of
absolutely
every, regardless of whatever. I'd love to know how many over that time that I've amassed, but we'll never know.
We'll never know. Well, if you want to increase our following count, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you've done that. You can find me at Gooner Lee Meads on Twitter. You can find us, the channel, at Gooner Gathering. Sending best wishes to Posh Bertie and to Golotso. That's Fran. And hopefully we'll see Matt Roberts very soon as well on the channel. Take care of yourselves all, and we'll see you next time. See you later.